Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to walk you guys through this 2008 C6 Zo6. I'll tell you guys the mods I have on it, the plans for the build, and take you on a little POV drive just to kind of see what it's like to drive, to have you guys feel like what I feel when I drive this beast. So to start off, obviously I gotta have the Zo6 license plate frame. For you guys, the car's a little dirty. It's been raining in Southern California a lot, so just kind of been getting a little greased up, but I'm gonna wash it soon. I'll post a video for that. But anyway, we have the license plate frame. I have a custom fab, kind of like axle back exhaust. So the exhaust has the stock tips, but the mufflers are cut, and basically from like here to the rest is custom piping. What do you call it? I have Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, stock sizes. So we got 325s in the back and 275s in the front. This car came on the original Goodyear tires. I think the Eagle F1 Supercar tires. Those tires simply just did not ride as well as these, and does not put power down like these do. Keep in mind, this is not like a drag tire by any means, but this car makes good power, and I have some upgrades for it, and it puts power down pretty well. It really does. I have these upgraded LED side marker lights and a smoked color. So I got the rear and the front. They're super easy to do. I got this ZR1 style spoiler. Again, that's super easy to do. Looks great. For the outside, I think that's pretty much it. The car just looks great. Has great proportions. I really like the stock wheels. Everything just looks really good about it. Moving on to the inside, I have this NRG bucket seat. It's all made of fiberglass, so it's like this whole seat I think is like 20 pounds. Super light. It's cloth and Alcantara. Pretty comfortable. I have this flat bottom steering wheel. I bought this off Amazon, but there's a lot of good reviews on it. People take this to Willow Springs, track it. It's a good wheel. It's like 300 bucks. Looks great. Real leather. It's nice. I have a Tick Performance short throw shift kit. That was a little pricey, but man, that thing really works. Especially for like roll racing, that kind of stuff. It's really good shift kit. What else? Well, moving into the car. Again, we got the steering wheel. This short shift kit, you guys can hear it if you want. You guys can tell engagement is great. Just a great short throw shift kit. I also have this Kenwood head unit, size Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Obviously the car did not come with that, and at least for me, I kind of needed that. I really wanted it in this kind of car, so I got that, and it got hooked up to the upgraded Bose sound system in this car, and it sounds pretty good, and it works very well. It really does. But how about we get a nice cold start for you guys? Car hasn't started for I think 2 days, so it's proper cold. Yeah, let's hear it. Sounds phenomenal. High compression V8, sounds great. Let's go to the outside, take a listen. This thing's really loud, guys. Really loud. In a good way though. It matches the car. Let's open the hood. We'll go over the power mod I've done. As you guys can see, that is a Corsa Performance carbon fiber cold air intake. Really great intake. Was not cheap. You know what? It looks great, sounds great, and I gotta admit, for an NA car, just an intake on the stock tune, this thing, it makes really good power. Corsa, I think, claims around 10 to 15 horsepower to the wheels throughout the whole curve, and I definitely concur with that. It might even feel like more, to be honest. This car, before it was already very fast. Now it's proper fast. This is a fast car. Anyone would say that. Now, yes, it's not the fastest car out there by any means, but you know what? A 7-liter car that weighs 3,100 pounds with 6-speed manual and rear-wheel drive is fast. And I mean, this is an LS, so it's making that torque everywhere, you know? A lot of people compare these to Vipers, and that's honestly a good comparison, because those cars you know, big engine, naturally aspirated, but those Vipers in the stock form didn't make a whole lot of torque under 2,000 RPM. Obviously they still made power, but these LS's make that torque almost in a diesel fashion where there's just never any lag or torque gap. It's really amazing. You guys can hear, that's the stock cam. That's that for a stock car and a stock cam. Sounds really good. But anyway, let's go for a POV drive, and hopefully you guys will be able to understand what it's like to drive this beast. One thing that's a little bit, it's definitely quirky about this car, this has a dry sump oiling system, which is really cool. You know, only serious performance cars have that, and basically that means there's a separate reservoir. Like, there's no real oil pan for this motor or for this car. It's held in a separate reservoir, and it's pumped throughout the car, right? And that basically allows the oil to not get pushed to one side when you're under a lot of G-forces, so the engine will never be starved for oil, but it takes a long time to warm up. Now in turn, that means the temps are honestly pretty good for a 7-liter motor, but again, the car's been idling for, you know, almost 5 minutes. It's only gone up 3 degrees for the oil, so where I keep the RPMs really low, I just let the car warm up a little bit faster if I just kind of drive it really chill, under 2,000 RPM always, and that just helps me in this ownership of this car, because I'm really not trying to wait 15 minutes every time I turn this car on and, you know, have my neighbors get mad or whatever. It's just, you know, yeah. I'm sure you guys can hear this motor does pops and bangs, and again, that's all under the stock tune. I just have a custom exhaust and an intake, but it's really phenomenal. This car sounds truly amazing. A vehicle I would compare with not a similar exhaust tone, but in terms of like, wow, you just got to hear more of it, would definitely be a GT350 or a GT350R. Those vehicles sound more exotic than this, definitely. And you just kind of have to hear more of it, right? Like when you're revving this thing out, you just don't want to stop. And it's very similar with that car. This car definitely doesn't sound, as I say, you know, special. It sounds more American, more low-B. You know, you hear the cam more. That car more screams, more higher pitched. This is more of a engine that, like, it just sounds angry. It sounds like a big motor that's very powerful, and it's very unapologetic about it. A GT350 sounds a little more like a, you know, more like a Ferrari, or more like just an exotic Italian engine, which sounds truly fantastic. That car definitely sounds amazing revved out. This just has a little more of that American garbage truck V8 sound, if you will, which I personally just love. And it definitely has a lot more torque than that GT350. I've driven those, and that was when I had a Camaro SS with an LT1, with a cold air intake and custom exhaust. And I gotta say, even though that GT350 has a lot more horsepower in the top end, on paper, the Camaro felt faster, in my opinion, always. Had way more torque, way more power everywhere, no lag, no waiting. Didn't sound as good, but in terms of like a driver's car and just like trying to just go fast and no waiting, definitely LT and LS engines are better than Voodoos and Coyotes, in my opinion, when they're stock, obviously. Let's take a right. This isn't gonna be a crazy drive or anything, guys, just almost like a day in the life of kind of owning this car, what it's like to have. You guys can just see it. It just sounds amazing. This TIG Performance short throw shift kit. I also have a custom leather shift boot. The stock one, it looked nice. It didn't feel super nice. It looked a little cheap. This is real leather, red stitching. It goes great. It's pretty easy to install. Have the windows up a little bit for you guys, a little less wind noise. But yeah, I mean, it's just a great car, great short throw shift kit. Before, the throws felt good, but there was definitely a lot of play, and you know, obviously it was a worn shift kit. You know, it was not a brand new car when I got it. I'm the second owner. I got it 37,000 miles. But man, I mean, you can just hear every time I shift this thing, it just click clack. It sounds fantastic. It almost sounds like a gated transmission vehicle, if you want to think about it like that. I've never driven one, but I've watched those POV videos. I'm sure you guys have, and it just sounds it sounds amazing. I mean, just listen to this. It just sounds great. I'm sure you guys can tell by the throws. It just looks great. It feels great. This also has a really strong centering spring, so you know, when you're like roll racing, you know, typically, you know, this car, let's say you're roll racing from second gear, it has a centering spring, so it's basically impossible to miss third. You basically just slam it up and it'll force it into third. It will never really go into first, and that is a huge upgrade when comparing it to the stock shifter and other manuals I've driven. This transmission and just shift kit, you know, it really does do a great job at that. But it's also really easy. If you want to drive it smooth, you just give it a little oomph and it goes right into gear every time. It feels great. This car does have a Tremec TR6060 transmission. It's a great transmission. Very strong, very good shift quality, shift action. Yeah. Moving along, this car does have a heads-up display, and it's not burnt out. This is a 2008 GM product, you know, not the highest quality in terms of the fit and finishes, but you know what? That heads-up display, even in bright daylight, is not washed out one bit, super clear. Hopefully you guys can read that. But yeah, it's great. That's definitely something I was not expecting from a 2008 Corvette. You know what? It's honestly really cool. I can see my G-forces, my coolant pressure, or my coolant temperature. I can see my revs, I can see my speed. It's all very clear and easy. There's no lag at all. Like, I can completely shift using those RPMs compared to the tachometer over here. There's just no lag. It's really great. Another thing with this vehicle, again, it's 3,100 pounds. That fixes a lot of the issues I have with new cars, especially new performance cars, right? New performance cars are very fast, and most of them are turbocharged, so you know, you can put a few $1,000s into them and they make a ton of power, right? Especially these BMWs, you know, and the AMG twin turbo V8s and stuff. They make a ton of power, but the only issue is, you know, they're not light cars, right? These AMGs are constantly over 4,000 pounds. These BMWs, I mean, the new M2 is just under 4,000 pounds. And M2, that used to be a fun little car that was pretty fast, and it was just twitchy. It felt very alive, and the problem is weight kills that. You can have a car that turns in reasonably well, but the best thing you can do is not get a big brake kit. It's not get different soy wires. It's have a lighter vehicle if you really want a vehicle to come alive and have a personality in terms of how it drives. And that is something this car, this 2008 GM C6 Z06 has in spades. It has a personality. This car is 3,100 pounds. It has a aluminum and magnesium frame. It has carbon fiber and fiberglass body panels. The roof's carbon fiber. I mean, it's these things that just all add up on top of, you know, the 7-liter motor that just really wake this car up. And this car, you know, does not have aftermarket suspension. The only thing, it has an exhaust and it has an intake. That's the only thing that really changes how it drives. And that to me is just super impressive, that this car feels as good as it does. You know, you can compare this car to cars in 2008. You're comparing against, you know, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and real exotic supercars in terms of performance and passion and soul. And keep in mind, most of those cars now are turbocharged or supercharged. They just lose out a little bit on that character, and they're heavier. And again, this car has that. It's so good in that department. It really is. Now, in terms of a daily driver, it's a handful. I'm gonna say that. It's definitely a car that you're thinking about driving, right? You're not falling asleep driving this car. It's gonna keep you awake, which is great. But the issue is, with a daily driver, really, you want to get to some place in relative comfort, and not think about, oh, I'm gonna curb this wheel, or oh, I'm gonna scrape the lip, or oh, I'm gonna have to wait for it to warm up. It's those things that this car inherently, because it is a you know, high-end sports car or track car, if you will, it does not make it inherently a great daily, right? When you compare it to, you know, a M3, for example, that car is going to be quieter. It's going to ride smoother than this. It's going to just be way more refined. So for a true daily, M3s or more just newer cars will be better. But if you want something that will wake you up, it will get your emotions going, it will get blood pumping and just give you that energy, this car will do that every time you get into it. Every time you turn it on, it feels like you're in a special car. It feels like you're in a focused vehicle, right? It is not about this and that and trying to keep your passenger comfortable and everyone else. No, it is about driving pleasure and going very fast. This car, some of you may know, some of you may not, can go 200 miles an hour stock. This is a 2008 car that goes 200 miles an hour and is not a complete shitbox inside. This car can go 200 miles an hour and can do a mid 7 minute Nürburgring time. This is not a one-trick pony. This car is very fast, alarmingly fast in a straight line, and handles better than most sports cars, and has more soul than even some supercars today. And that's why I love it, right? It is simple. It's not a complex vehicle. There's not a complex drivetrain. It is a 6-speed manual vehicle, rear-wheel drive, with a big motor. Front engine, mid-front engine motor. It's gonna pull that out of, you know, Ferraris basically, you know. Ferraris are not just front engine, they're mid-front engine. That motor is behind that axle. And that gives you better weight transfer. And that basically allows the car to turn in just better. The car, you can feel the weight in a good way. It feels light, it feels very connected, it feels tight. That is something I was not expecting to say driving a 2008 General Motors product. And you know, maybe some of you are going to say, well, you should expect it. Well, I should have. Let's be honest, I should have expected it. But I guess knowing the company General Motors is, they typically will get some numbers on a spec sheet really, really good, but then you drive it, it does not feel as competent as these German counterparts. And this is a car that definitely does feel like that, and more so, right? I've driven these GT350s, I've driven GT4s, you know, from Porsche, right? Mid-engine, exotic sports car, not a supercar, but, you know, very exotic sports car. And I gotta say, that car, while it does handle better than this in stock form, that car is over $120,000-$130,000, and does not nearly have the straight line speed this car has, and in my opinion does not have the sound. It sounds very good, but this will wake you up. This will get your emotions flowing, whereas that car will just be very good. This car really does get your emotions going in a great way. I'm someone that can get bored of cars quickly and is always looking for something that's truly special, not just on a spec sheet that's special. And I've really found it with this vehicle. And that's why, I mean, this is a car that I'm going to keep for a very, very long time. You know, this is something that, like, I just want to keep and look at and say I have and drive it and enjoy it, because it thoroughly is special. There's not one part of this car that was not engineered and thought about in a way, and that I truly do love. You know, the used values of these cars are rapidly going up on the used market. Jacob from Straight Pipes has a car. There's a reason he has this, and he's explained in a lot of his YouTube videos how special this is and why it's so special, and it truly is great. Yeah, there's really not much bad to say about it. In terms of interior quality, it's a mixed bag. It doesn't feel like a shitbox in any way, but it's definitely not a car you're gonna get and think, wow, the quality's so good. It's definitely, you can tell, a car that was thought about more driving and more handling and more, you know, engineering money went into the driveline and things like that in this vehicle compared to interior quality. But again, it is not like a C5 Corvette, which many people will, you know, really not like the interior quality of those. And I've been in C5s. I can see what they mean. I do. They're still very good cars, but you know, this definitely has a nicer interior than those cars. It does. No one's gonna really argue that. I'm gonna give you guys a little more acceleration here. I'll put the windows down, you guys can really hear it. Just so you guys can hear the revs. You can hear the burbles when you upshift every gear. Just sounds great. There's torque everywhere. These gears are very long. I'm going 50 miles an hour in fourth. I'm at 2,000 RPM. And the second I step into it, barely any throttle, I'm moving at a great speed. And I can tell there's a lot more under my foot, which is really just something that no amount of turbocharging can really do. This is a 7-liter big block, basically sized motor that is unapologetic in how it delivers power. It is dangerous in every way. It is not trying to hide itself, and that is something that's truly great. Let's not kill this biker right over here. And that's something that's just, in my opinion, that's phenomenal. Yes, it just has the torque that, you know, these new cars, I'm sorry, I don't care how much power those cars make on paper, they just simply don't feel like this. I've been in a Lamborghini Huracan's 640 horsepower out of a naturally aspirated V10, right? You think that's great, right? I'm sorry, it just it doesn't feel like this. This has a, you know, right then it's completely dry. The whole car went sideways. It stepped out on me. That's a traction fully on. I have good tires on this car. It's 65 degrees and sunny outside. It's not wet at all. Those cars won't do that. This car will bite you. And that is something that an unexperienced driver won't like. That is something a person who doesn't really want to drive a car won't like, right? If someone actually wants to drive a vehicle and wants to command everything about it and doesn't want a vehicle that's compromised in how it drives, it'll bite you. And this is one of those cars. If you fuck up, it will let you know. And it might let you know by spinning out, by hitting a wall, by hitting a crowd. You know, it's that kind of car. And way more so than a Mustang GT or Camaro SS or a Scat Pack. You know, these cars are really good. Something kind of to compare it to, I would say, in its rowdiness or potential danger would definitely be a Hellcat. Those cars make more power on paper, and they make more power. I'm not going to argue that at all. But you know what? Those cars weigh 1,000 pounds more, and they have a smaller motor. There is going to be a little more lag in terms of torque delivery. This thing has no lag. It's really hard. I keep saying that, but I really mean that, because it's kind of hard to understand what no lag is until you drive something like this. The throttle response and just immediate torque delivery, it feels like you're in a diesel in terms of its torque, except it's actually fast. You have these 1,000-power diesels and stuff. It's like they're very fast, but they have a lot of power, but there's a little bit of weighting, or there's a little bit of, I don't know, something not great. And it's weird to compare this to a diesel truck, I understand, but in terms of that torque delivery and just smoothness and ability to crash, this is phenomenal. It actually rides on good pavement very smooth, a lot smoother than you probably think. Over bumps, it's not good. No one's gonna argue that. I'm certainly not gonna lie to you. Over bumps, this car is not smooth. But you know what? Over smooth pavement, where it's something like a track, or just a road like this, where it's a generally like a decent road, it's very smooth. It definitely feels like a sports car, but it's not gonna beat you up over smooth pavement at all. It won't do it. Again, I guess another complaint, there's not many, but this is definitely one of them for me. There is definitely rev lag in this, or rev lag, I'm sorry. There is definitely rev hang in this vehicle. I think that kind of makes sense in a way. It's a 7-liter motor. It's very tough in that way, so there's a little bit of lag in terms of waiting for the revs to fall. It does not feel like a Miata or a Viper. You know, a Viper actually doesn't have much rev hang at all, and that's phenomenal. This car definitely has a little bit. It's not too bad though, and you know what? There's so much power in every gear. It really does make up for it. Yeah, overall, I mean, the visibility, the sight lines of this vehicle are amazing. It's truly a good vehicle, and for driving, man, there's this savagery and satisfyingness that you feel every time you get into the power band of this car. And just to recap, I'm at 2,000 RPM, okay? I'm even gonna put it in third gear. Third gear, these are tall gears. I'm at 30 miles an hour, under 2,000 RPM, right? The second I get into it, I'm in my seat and I'm going. There's at any RPM, there is no lag, nothing. And that is something I've yet to feel. I've been in Hellcats, they're fast. I'm sorry they don't feel as fast as this car, or nearly as connected or as well engineered. This is a focused vehicle. And that's something that truly, you know, takes effort. Anyone can just throw a supercharger on a car and make it fast. That's not, you know, really. You know, anyone can supercharge a car, and I'm not looking down on Hellcats, they're very nice cars, but anyone can make a car have a lot of horsepower. But to have it match the chassis and just have this immediacy to it, that's something that's very, very special. Moving on with the video, let's talk about future plans I have with this car. I definitely want to do Johnny O'Connell's front and rear sway bars with the end links. That is something that, you know, I've done on my previous cars. I've done upgraded sway bars, and I've watched videos and track reviews of that, and people say that's a very, very good modification and upgrade you can do. So I'm definitely going to do that. This car really, it doesn't have much body roll, and it doesn't weigh a lot, so there's not much roll to even happen. And the speed you can take in this car are absolutely incredible. But that's just something I would like to really make it feel extra tight and firm around corners. So Johnny O'Connell front and rear bars with those upgraded end links. I might do an upgraded bushing kit. I see these Del Rim bushing kits. They're about $1,000. They're pretty expensive, but people say it really wakes up the car and makes everything a little more immediate. So, you know, maybe something like that. An MSD ported intake manifold is something I definitely want to do. And, you know, in terms of power, this car is making right now 490 wheel horsepower. That's a lot of power out of a 7-liter, so you're never waiting for it. And keep in mind, this car is 3,100 pounds. So you almost have a 500 wheel horsepower car that weighs, you know, a tiny bit more than a Civic Type R. And it's not a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It is a 7-liter V8. Think about that. This has triple the displacement of a Civic Type R. It's between 3 to 4 times the displacement, right? Has double the cylinders, and there's no turbo, so there's no waiting. There's just this immediate push and thrust. When you go on throttle in this car, and it gets after probably past 5,000 RPM, it wakes up more. It doesn't fall off. It literally, that's when it's like really the horsepower is kicking in. And it's truly incredible. It genuinely feels like you're gonna take off and fucking fly into the sky. I swear, I'm not being a baby. This car really does feel like that, and it's amazing. Definitely a car you have to be careful with. When you're on the throttle, it can get away from you if you're not careful, or if road conditions don't match. But I mean, this car just, It really goes very fast. I've drag raced G82 and G80s, so you know, M4 and M3s, the new gen, and this car takes those like it doesn't really care. This, you can look up on YouTube, this keeps up with Hellcats, and that's in the top end, right? So it's really impressive because those cars do make a lot more power. It just shows the gearing and the real potential of this motor. And then keep on, this is compared to a stock Z06. So can you put any money into it in terms of power? You're on a road race, you're taking most cars. So again, with that MSD intake manifold, with my intake, I'm gonna be making around 510 wheel horsepower. And again, that's everywhere on the curve, and around 500 torque, or foot-pounds torque to the wheels. I'm making just under 500 now, and you know, that's something that, again, there's no weighting, so you just have this ability to move forward at a speed that just most cars just simply can't do. Everything's tuned exceptionally well. The throttle calibration is fantastic. The steering, this is 08, so it has the dual speed rack, and I mean, I don't know, I've never driven one without it, so I can't really tell you the difference, but you know what, it feels of his age. It does not feel like a new steering rack. It feels a little slow. It's not as precise as Porsche's, but you know what, mid-corner it feels quite good. The steering does load up better than just about any current sports car that's not a Porsche. So the steering, you say, is good. It's good steering. Brake feel is quite excellent. The brakes in this car, 6-piston Brembos up front, 4-piston in the rear on cross-drilled rotors. And you know, so you can say the brakes are fantastic. And again, this car weighs 3,100 pounds. So imagine, again, taking a Miata, putting two 250-pound people in it, and putting a, you know, $6,000 brake kit on it. It's gonna brake like that. It's gonna brake exceptionally well. And you have the tires, so you can grip the road and really use those brakes correctly. And it's just a great experience. You have tremendous braking confidence, tremendous accelerating confidence, and the handling matches that. So you really have a driving vehicle that is quite excellent. Sounds great. It's a genuine hatch, so you know what? It's actually quite practical too. You can make your Home Depot runs, or do it center runs, or whatever you're doing. You can throw fucking shit in there, and it's gonna do it. It's gonna haul your shit if you want to. But if you just want to drive this like an absolute maniac, oh, it does it, and it'll do it quite well. I've hustled, you know, quite a few cars, and you know, all cars today aren't quite fast. But this just, man, you feel like you're a bat out of hell. You're just terrorizing everyone walking. Everyone looks at you, they'll jump off the fucking, you know, sidewalk. People are protecting their babies in their strollers. I mean, they're just thinking you're gonna just, you know, it sounds like you're starting, you know, a war behind you with that exhaust. This car has a really special exhaust note. It sounds like there was like artillery fire, you know, because you have that big block nature, so you have this like boominess and just a bass tone because you have that displacement, right? So, you know, these Coyotes sound really good, but they sound a little high-pitched. This sounds like it's just ripping apart the air. If you guys have ever stood behind a big block, you'll know what I mean. And this pretty much has that. And that's just absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. And of course he does these pops and bangs. Sounds great. Yeah, it's great. Also, there's a check engine light. That is one of my catalytic converters going bad. Took to the mechanic. He said, your cat's working at about 95%, but you know what? That's gonna throw the code. There's nothing actually wrong with the vehicle. Drives completely fine. Doesn't even smell. It's just something I gotta deal with. So don't worry, guys. I'm not driving on a car that's, you know, about to blow up on me. I don't know what else. I mean, it's just a great car. There's so much power. You can hit jail speeds with so much ease. And everyone, that's the thing. If you're the kind of driver that wants to kind of fly under the radar, go really fast, or have a car that's kind of loud, but like, you know, not everyone's gonna know, this is not the car for you. This is the car that you don't care if everyone knows you're driving like this. You You just want a machine that does something so well and is not scared to let everyone know what it's about. And that is what this car is. A C6 Z06 is a car for the person that wants to drive hard and wants everyone to know that's what they do and they don't feel bad for doing it. And, you know, people can look around that, you know, in a bad way or a good way, but me personally, I just think the vehicle's great, and if you choose to drive it like that, that's your choice. If you choose it to putt around, that is also your choice, but this car is absolutely capable of doing that. So that's amazing. Another Corvette right here. It's a Z06, C8 Z06, C6, it's great. Little fun fact, this car has more torque than that one, and is half a second slower from the 60 to 130. Just letting you know, that's the kind of performance. That's a, keep in mind, I'm gonna put the windows up to let you guys know. That is a 2024 C8 Z06. That car is 670 horsepower out of a 5.5 liter NA V8. That revs to almost 9,000 RPM. And it has an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Has all the technology GM can throw at it, right? This is a great car. I'm sure it handles better than this one. But in a straight line, that car is only half a second quicker. Now, if you take out the manual, shit, it's not even faster. Seriously. It just shows how nuts these cars are. It's truly supercar levels of performance in a straight line, in my opinion, and in braking. It's absolutely phenomenal. Looks great. In my opinion, has a nicer idle than the new cars. And yeah, it's a great car. If any of you guys are thinking going for a C8 or C6 Z06, excuse me, in my opinion, you should absolutely do it. It's a fantastic car. Definitely a hairy-chested kind of vehicle. Lots of horsepower, lots of torque everywhere. Look at this guy. What are you doing, dude? Well, yeah, it's a great car. It revs really fast. You have titanium connecting rods, so the actual moving parts inside the engine are quite light for its size. So in terms of rev matches, it'll actually rev quite fast, which is great in my opinion. And it's exceptionally fast in every regard. I mean, just getting on it a little bit sounds fantastic. I'm waking up everyone, but I mean, if you want to go fast, it's a fantastic car. It really is. It feels very capable and very planted. It does have a little bit of a, you know, it's gonna kill you at all times kind of vibe. So again, if you're the driver who doesn't want that, this is definitely not the car for you. But man, if you want to have an experience that you're not gonna forget, and an experience that modern cars just, you know, I'm sorry, basically can't give you anymore, this is that car for you. Just listen to those downshifts, and do me a favor, look at that speedometer climb really quick. Very fast car. That was not full throttle, probably 70%. I mean, you're getting to corners very quickly. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in another one.